Started with tonight. What? No, it's full. Did we not change it? Okay, since we didn't change our bylaws to reflect the number of people on the commission, we need one more for a quorum. We're supposed to change that, but we expect both of them to come, so we're going to get started. Like I said, well, we can't vote on the minutes.
We can't. Yeah, we can't get started.
We can't do anything. Talk amongst yourselves. If you need any topics, just come up and we'll give you one and you can talk about it. Yeah, we need. Well, we now have a bylaws issue we need to deal with next time. We used to have nine members and 5 was the quorum. We changed to 7 and that part didn't get changed to 4. It still says 5 in the bylaws, so legally we have to have 5 for a quorum until we change it. So. Talk about that amongst yourselves if you want.
James, have you heard from Dawn Marie?
Oh, Marie, that's right. She's usually here.
I haven't.
Okay, well, I just texted her and Shelby. I don't have Liz.
Shelby's coming, Liz is coming.
Okay, we have 2 that are on their way, so bear with us and we apologize for the delay.
So what did he do on that?
What? He's gonna put a door in the back part that was added on, the concrete block portion, put a nice door, a storefront door like you'd have in a building like that, and that was pretty much it. Okay. So that'll be a retail sliver, not part of the main building. Yeah, yeah. So I don't have Liz Hamilton.
But she does.
Did she? Okay. Yeah. We need to change that. Change nothing else.
The bylaws at the end of last year.
I did too, but we were talked about it. Okay, we need to act on it. Here's Liz.
Because you have to be presented a copy and then come back around and change it.
Let's get that in motion. Let's get that. Evening, we did. Yeah, you're over there. I didn't do that. Yeah. There'll be a lot of blame here in a little bit. Okay, now we have a quorum, so we can do the real stuff. I want to welcome everybody to the January meeting of the Conway Historic District Commission. Just real quick, our roll call is a verbal. My name is Steve Hurd. I'm chairman.
Emily Walter, vice chair.
Liz Hamilton.
Push it. The little man's face.
Margaret West.
Shane Lind.
We do have 2 more that we are expecting to be here anytime. First item we have are the minutes from December, from last month. If everybody's had a chance to look at them and they're okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion from Liz.
Second.
Second, any discussion, everything look okay from everybody? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, before we start the presentations, just our basic house rules. First off, anyone who comes up to speak, we need your name and your residential address, where you live, and that's just for the record. We do that for city council, planning commission. That's just what City of Conway does. So if we can get that from you before you start, and if you don't, I'll just gently remind you to give us, address or whatever. That's not a problem. But what we'll do is, for each applicant, we'll call for that one to be discussed. The applicant, whoever's representing them, comes up and speaks. I will then ask for anybody else that's here in favor of that particular one, and then we ask for anybody in opposition to it. There may be some questions during the applicant's presentation, but usually we like to wait till all the fors and against have spoken. Then we'll bring it into our group up here and talk about it and deal with the applicant and talk. It'll be, basically, we'll close the hearing at that point as far as comments or whatever from the public. We will, I mean, questions are dealt with from time to time, but basically it'll be between us and the applicant at that point. And then we'll deliberate and do what we do on each one. So with that said, we have our first one on the agenda tonight is the 1832 Robinson Avenue City Church sign permit review. If I have somebody here to speak for that.
Press the little man.
No, you're on, you're ready, the red light's on. You're
Ready to
good.
go?
Yeah.
Great. James Walden, 14 Oakdale Drive in Conway, 72034. So an overview of the proposal, based on the feedback last time we received from the commission, was we needed to redesign the sign. The original design was too large and too bright. And so our revised proposal that we submitted is a fourth the size of the original proposal. And it is, we've relocated from the center wall. If you remember the picture, there's a left west gable, a center wall, yeah, there you go, and a right east gable. And so we're proposing to move the location from the center wall to the east gable, as you can see there. So the letters are 2 feet tall, 8 feet long, and one of the other concerns was the brightness, and so we're proposing to backlight the letters on a wooden backdrop like that to help diminish any potential trespassing of light. And included in the proposal, same as last time, we're going to tear down the Mitchell Street 2-post sign, and then we will relocate the other 2-post sign that's in the clear view or the right-of-way to be out of the clear view. Anything else? And once the new sign is installed, we'll remove the X that's hanging in the west gable or the glass
On
atrium.
the glass, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody have any questions, sir? Not to get into the details at this, many details at this point, but last time my thoughts were, a monument sign on the ground, and is there a problem with that? I mean, if it was perpendicular to the building, you could see from both ways, and is that out of, it's not what y'all want? Y'all want a wall sign?
Correct.
And okay, and we'll talk about it, just so I understand. Anybody, otherwise we can get comment and keep going. Okay, thanks, sir.
Great, thanks.
Anybody else here to speak in favor of the proposal?
Yes, my name is Tim Kalkleisure. My wife Karen and I live at 5555 Lost Canyon Drive. We are charter members of City Church, which started back in 2013 on the campus of the University of Central Arkansas, and I'm also on the City Church Board of Directors. I attended the meeting last month on the 27th, and my purpose was to sit quietly and get a first-hand assessment of the issue at hand. Just a couple of brief thoughts. City Church purchased the building and the property at 1832 Robinson Avenue in the fall of 2020 for $600,000. Over the last 15 months, we have also invested another $150,000 in exterior and interior improvements and repairs. I also wanted to say thank you to the commission for extending us a word we call grace, unmerited favor, when you agreed to table the issue last month to give us the opportunity to make it right. I also want to take just a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit about who we are. We have core values as a group of believers. We're a gospel-driven people. We're a spirit-led people. We are a people that feel like we're better together. We're a generous people, and we're a joy-filled people. Just a quick example of that first core value of being gospel-driven. The daily devotional this morning was entitled, "A Message the World Needs to Hear." And that's what we're about as a group of believers as far as our gospel-driven value. Back to the issue at hand. In spite of all of the opposition that was expressed last month, and which may again be expressed this evening, I feel our team has worked extremely hard over the past 30 days to comply with the requirements necessary for our request to be approved. If for some reason we haven't, we would simply ask for some additional grace to make it right.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else to speak in favor of the proposal? All right, anyone here to speak in opposition to the proposal?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Kitts, 1837 Robinson. Thank you all for being here tonight. We just saw the plans for the new church sign last night. We live right across the street from the church. As I'm looking at the sign right now, really that's the view from our front porch, from our front yard, from our living room, and from our front bedroom. So that's what we're looking at all the time. We're definitely opposed to a sign on the wall facing out to the street like that, facing our house and facing the cook's house next door to us and all the way down the street. I also have a question about the lighting. I'm not sure why there needs to be lighting in the first place. I noticed on the proposal it said that the lighting would be turned off at 9 o'clock p.m. That's one of the stipulations. I'm not really sure why there needs to be a light in the first place. Any light, like you see the backlit light right there, it's still going to bleed onto towards us, so we're going to get a lot of light from the sign. You know, when I was looking at the recommendations from the website, it says that when selecting specific structures, it's important to consider the impact of the lighting on the adjacent properties. So like I was just saying on that picture that we were looking at, the lighting and the size of the new sign, that does affect us in a negative way. That's what we're looking at all the time. Also in the guidelines, it says a new sign site and street lighting that is compatible with the human scale and historic character of the district. So when you're talking about human scale, I don't know, when I look at that new sign proposal, it looks like a big banner that's advertising for the church, not maybe a more modest sign like the signs you see up there on this side, the monument signs that are a little more modest. So because that sign that they're proposing really doesn't fit into the character of the neighborhood, that's why we're opposed to it. And it's in accordance to the guidelines for the historic district. In the guidelines, it also says it's inappropriate to introduce indiscriminate area lighting in the historic districts. And I guess in this case, indiscriminate would mean harmful effects. So the bleed over lighting would be a harmful effect on the neighbors. So I just don't think it fits in at all. And I'm not sure about the color, the background color. It just brings even more attention to the sign. My other question was, the letters are 2 feet high. Does that also include the symbol that's next to it? Is that included in the size also? So really for those reasons, it doesn't fit the scale and of the neighborhood, and And we're opposed to the lighting that we're facing 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what we'd be looking at. So we are definitely opposed to it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Kitts. Anybody else want to speak in opposition to the proposal? Okay, with that said, we'll bring it back to ourselves here and discuss it.
I have
Uh,
a few questions.
go ahead.
And I missed last meeting, but I've read through all the notes. And from what I can pick up on the minutes, and I see this, that it was tabled. My first question is, it sounded like it was set that if any time was gonna be lit, it was gonna go off at 8, but I see in number 2, it's gonna go off at 9. Was there a discussion about a time? It was in our minutes that it was 8, but I didn't know if it,
Honestly, that was because it's diffuse and it's moved over.
okay.
That was the reasoning, but if 8 is preferable, that's also.
Okay. Another question I have is, why, if there's already a sign there in the glass, why, and that's not lit? Can you come up, Mr. Walden? Yes, ma'am. And again, I apologize if this was asked last time and I missed it. But there's a sign on the west side easement right now.
Yes, ma'am. Behind the glass? Mm-hmm. It was temporary. When we first moved in, it was temporary. We had an extra X, and so we hung it out there until a permanent sign could be installed.
Okay, and it's not lit right now?
Well, it has, inside that glass, there are lights in the ceiling that shine down, and so
It's illuminated.
it's illuminated through, unintentionally through the ceiling lights.
Well, and part of this is that goes away with,
Right.
Correct.
So there'll only be one. Once a new sign is installed, we'll remove the X down.
And was it discussed about possibly not lighting it and just doing ground lighting, like uplighting it?
Yeah, so staff met with the applicant out there towards dark. Initially, we had talked, when we met with them, we looked at the site where the sign was that prompted it to come in, and sort of some options in terms of how that would relate. There's a precedent of an existing sign at Robinson and Center Church of Christ that has a sort of backlit sign that's diffuse, and so what they came back with was this that would have sort of a glow. There is there's a street light that is actually, I guess, further to the west that generates a significant amount of light. I think in comparison, this probably would not. I mean, unless you wanted to do actual photometric analysis, I think the comparison of what is being emanated from this comparative to what's just ambient light pollution from streetlights is probably minimal.
Mr. Kitts, you have a question real quick? We'll get. Mr. Walden, go.
Yes, sir.
We'll just have to do a question here, and we'll keep going.
And it's a handsome-looking sign, but it's looking out over a parking lot. The issue we have with this sign, what you're seeing right there is what we're going to be seeing all the time. That's why we're opposed to it. The sign that y'all looked at looks out over a parking lot. That's the big difference. This is a residential area. It doesn't fit the human scale of the area. This sign is bigger, as you look at the backdrop, the background and all that, than the sign that y'all had up, that you put up before.
Is the backdrop included? Would it be included in the 16 square feet? We were assuming it would not.
Well, so
It's just the graphic with it, I mean, just the.
that's another question I have, because it states on the staff recommendations that the cladding not be used, right?
Just paint what's there.
Yeah, well, the reason being is that, so we've gotten the survey back, the survey of Robinson District. So this structure was built in '65. It was the First Assembly of God church, it's obviously been added to onto, it's listed as non-contributing now. The addition of the barnwood, based on the Secretary of Interior standards, so the guidelines which are over and above the guidelines that are in place for the district, advise not to make non-contributing structures more non-contributing. So the addition of the barnwood would kind of be a conjectural element added onto the structure.
It's
and
kind
so
of a
that-
separate
that's-
sign, separate than the sign itself.
Yeah,
you know,
it's,
so
it's,
if you
it's
get that-
taking it from being a sign request to a sign and exterior modification request. So that was why.
So I'm asking all these questions because I also live across the street from a church. And this beautiful cross, I can see it from my home office. There is a lit sign that I can see from my stairs, but that's it. It goes off at night. I don't think the cross goes off at night, but, and the difference is, and I think where he's coming from is the house was there. I moved into the house knowing that cross was gonna be lit. I knew it was already there. Now there's a sign that's gonna be lit. I mean, I'm going back and looking at what we did with Linderman and Caldwell Banker, and neither one of those we allowed signs on the building. It was monument signs only.
That's what I want to talk about, and it's not really a negative way I'm approaching this, but why?
It's a cost. Monument sign will be significantly more, right?
I mean, there's already
aluminum
electrical out
letter
there,
signs.
correct?
What's that?
There's electrical out there and for the sign that was before you guys came, I believe, they had a light out there. I could, at some
I'm not
point,
sure.
there was a lit sign out there before, I just, that's always a cost, getting electrical, I get that. But I guess in leaning towards, the human scale, the neighborhood, all those factors, and a comment I made last time with the bigger sign was, that's more geared to long distance vision of it, and whether it's on a big busy roadway or across an access road, it would have been effective for that. That's so that was, and the idea of a monument sign and lit or not, but low lit, if there was something, just again, not trying to design it, but one that was in your logo kind of lends itself to being kind of long and linear. Before just when you have city on top of church, before it was when they're together on the same line.
It was exactly like that before.
Okay,
It was
I
just
just-
longer. And it is within, the X is all within 2 feet.
Right,
So
and that's
whole
fine.
logo.
But again, you got kind of a linear thing, and if you were to have a monument sign that was perpendicular to the building, like out in front of the glass even, because that's kind of your main piece of the elevation there, it could be, if it's a thing of being seen, the main viewers of a sign like this on the wall are across the street. I mean, driving by, you get a view right when you're there. And I'm not trying to plan your everything about this, but to get the full impact of a sign and money spent and money and whatever, if you can, and you'd be able to have your name on both sides of it, of a one that's perpendicular to the building, you've got them coming and going. And when they pull up to the intersection, it's just, if that's what you're looking at for, I mean, that's mostly what we put signs up for, is people to know what we are. And people that pull up the intersection won't know that, won't see that. I mean, the other sign is not the easiest to read from a distance, just because of the graphic and stuff. But this sign out front could be that, but not, down the street. And I'm not going to pit, churches against churches. That's not the point. But First Baptist has a monument sign out front. It's the only sign they have.
It's parallel, right?
It's parallel, but again, I could argue that 90 degrees might have been better. But with that drive, that's the way that worked. Okay. We have a couple. First Methodist has
a
sign
long
that was
one.
it was there before we had a district. So it is what it is. But theirs was fairly small and not big. And there's a couple that are on poles
So-
that were there before we came along. So we can't.
On the monument sign, we would still need to be within 16 square feet, correct? Total?
Right.
Including the posts and everything. That'd be a very small sign. That was the guidelines on the 2-post signs.
The requirement is 16 square feet.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a very small sign.
Does that include the post, or is that the graphic?
The way that it's measured is essentially, if it's on a 2-pole sign,
Can
so
you,
if it's,
can you show the 2-post signs, just for reference, quick?
if it.
That was out of compliance, the one on the bottom.
It was too tall, was it?
It was
or
too
not?
tall.
Okay.
So essentially, anything that, even the open air below is what we count as part of
Okay.
the sign area.
You know, just for numbers, 2 foot by 8 foot, you know, 16, obviously. 8 foot's pretty long, and 2 foot tall, but it, you know, if the graphic was, I'm not trying to design this thing to.
Hey, I'm just listening.
I'm just throwing out
Steve,
there, just.
throw it
in
out
my-
there.
What I do, myself, Liz, we're both architects in this, and this stuff just, we do it without even thinking about it, because it drives us crazy not to, you know, it's just part of what we do, but figuring things out, and just thinking about it, I'm not, you know, it's just, I think with, you know, there's, you can do anything underneath it. I mean, it can be on a little brick, something, I mean, again, not much, but if,
Well, and then let me ask a question too. If we're talking a monument sign, if we're just chasing that rabbit down the hole, if it's 2 foot by 8 foot, and then if we're also requiring landscaping to go around and in front of, then anything other than a pansy is gonna cover up your
right,
graphic.
right,
And
well,
so,
that's, yeah.
James, don't let me misspeak here, but we allow some height,
Mhm.
right?
If there's
Behind.
landscaping,
Right?
we can account, that doesn't count in
The
the,
base, yeah, the base is included in the area.
All of it is?
Yep.
Well, then only pansies. So
Or-
save
well,
on some
let me
landscaping costs,
ask
Just
sorry.
low
Just trying
growth
to-
stuff. Well, those are some of the, you know, in the weeds, so to speak, details, but there are, again, First Baptist, you know, that one seems a little bit large, but I don't know, I'm not sure about when that was done,
Did-
but, go ahead.
No,
You were
I
still, you were
interrupted
talking,
you.
I started talking, so go ahead.
No, I feel like we're just interrupting each other, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's what we do.
Did we say last month that they had to abandon the wall graphic, or that they couldn't have a sign on the building?
Yeah.
I don't recall that being a
I don't
recommendation or a
think it
direction
was a
that we were
condition,
steering
no,
them.
and then wall signs are allowed, but it's just, we're
how are we
not-
out of, I guess, how are we outside of the guidelines?
Well,
right
that's the
now?
thing, it's, everything's interpretive, and
Okay.
we could, you know, and it's appropriate, as appropriate for the context, and the context is to me, you know, this church that is very much welcome in the neighborhood, and that's a
Thank you.
thriving part of any neighborhood, and that's fine.
Great.
It's just that the graphics of things, the wall sign, is not what we kind of really want to go towards with the more, I mean, again, up and down the streets, we're not doing the big signs, and we got that limitation, obviously. But while the wall sign is part of what's allowed, it's a context thing. I'm, in my mind, I'm applying the context of this location, not because the kids are across the street and complain about a light. I mean, that's an issue that's there, that's real. But it's, to me, without the light issue, I would still be bothered by, or at least want to talk about going from wall to monument. That's where I'm
Well,
coming from.
yeah, I guess I'm curious why you want that particular sign or graphic right there. I mean, do you feel like people won't know the church is there? Do you feel like you want, I mean, what's the purpose of that? I guess what I'm asking.
Sure, so the graphic is our logo, so that's
Right.
why we chose that
Sure.
configuration of the graphic. I already mentioned cost, and that location was an attempt to be less bothersome and obtrusive. And to fill, if we did that size on the center wall, it wouldn't fill the space as well as that one. And we just haven't considered a monument sign based on style.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to, it's just subjective style.
Yeah, I think, yeah, again, we could get into the weeds of graphic design too. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to do, but, you know, your logo lends itself to have, you know, a very clean, you know, border on it. I mean, and just this really kind of almost a statement sign it could be, if, you know, with the givens that are there. I guess more than anything, if you're wanting to be seen, want to, you know, and the being up high like that's kind of maybe out of our comfort zone, you get two signs, you know, one facing each direction. And that's, to me, you know, I'm not trying to run your church either and get people, it's just, that just seems to be a pretty good bang for the buck on that end, on the representation of your name on the site there. But, I don't know, for me, it's more of what, you know, before you guys are the second ones to paint it, and before it was painted the first time, I pleaded with, and it's of a vintage where it's not, I mean, we're not supposed, our rules are not to paint. It may have not been as concrete back then, but when that happened, but that church sitting there before it was painted and all, and the argument I made about when they wanted to come and all the polishes, they want to put rock on and they wanted to kind of, make it different. For what not my favorite era or style, but it was a pretty good example, and I mean, still is architecturally of mid-century suburban churches. It's not, I don't know if that's an official category or not, but it had some good bones to it, and it still does. And y'all have not done anything to hurt that. It's just, but that I think in a little bit that sign kind of gets a little busy with it. But that that's, I'm not going to hang my hat on that. But I guess my thing is the monument sign would do a lot for you guys. First off, I've got pictures here in front of me, so I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the.
You can look at me if you want to.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I'm
I'm looking, talking at the building here at the bottom. But I don't know if everybody knows that, but I got the screen here. So anyway,
Can I say something?
please.
The whole point of this commission is historical preservation, okay? That is our number one goal, is to preserve our downtown and the looks of it to where it's not changed. Our goal is to make sure every house and building looks as it was when it was built. This sign does not do that, okay? We're not graphic designers, but at the end of the day, this sign drastically changes the look of that church and the neighborhood around it. And for me, I'm against it. A monument sign won't do that, because a monument sign, you can take it away. I mean, that's it. This is a permanent fixture. The cladding does go against it. You asked us what goes against this. The wood cladding goes against it. I don't like the lit walls for the residents who were living there first. And there's other options. And that is, to me, not an option.
Thanks, Emily.
So, okay, so I want to play nice with everybody, okay? And so I appreciate that you added the wood, because I think the warmth will absorb a lot of the light infiltration. And if there is, in fact, a street light that's right on the corner, then that's gonna be a lot more intrusive to all neighbors, right?
But the wood is
Wood's not allowed.
not
Yeah,
allowed.
I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
Okay, sorry.
Let me-
Just in case you.
I
Okay.
gotta get to my place. And so I appreciate the warmth absorbing the light, and I understand that the street lights might be more intrusive than any kind of backlit sign. And I think that a monument sign, if it is perpendicular to the street, needs to have the signage on, because this is what we do. I think it has to have the sign on both sides, and so then I think you're lighting twice, right? Closer to the street and closer to the neighbors. And so if I'm following that train of thought, I still am making the argument for the less intrusive sign to be on the building and be backlit. Now, I understand the wood, but I do think that if it is a monument sign, meaning that it could be removed, right, and that it's temporary, you're not like permanently, it's not a mural, you're not permanently, it's even a mural could be painted over, but defacing the building. I would almost make a recommendation, not officially, but throw it out there that if it was constructed more as an implied sign, similar to your inspiration image that you have included in your submission, and even located in a lower, more human scale, that center portion between the two gables, that might be contrary to what we talked about last week, or last month. That would, to me, would be a little bit lesser scale, and then the entire thing, meaning within the entire wooden backdrop and the metal frame, whatever it is, would be the 16 square feet. I think that would be a little bit more appropriate. But that's not what we're reviewing, and as an architect, I can't not, in my mind, see something else. I don't mind the aesthetic that they're going for, because even though they bought a building and they're in a historic district, that doesn't mean that they have to have all the bells and whistles and ornamentation of the historic district, right?
And when we bought the building, it had painted brick and a metal roof already.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess
And it is a
you know.
mid-century
And that's not,
modern
that's not
building.
we're not penalizing you for that. I mean, that's changed the color.
If y'all will permit me, I'll read some of the language directly out of the guidelines, because that was sort of the basis of how we reviewed it, and it's intended to be the guidelines for how decisions are made. This is under things to consider as you plan. The compatibility of new signage in the districts should be reviewed in terms of location, size, materials, color, scale, and character. All new signage must comply with current Conway sign ordinances as well. For commercial adaptive uses in a historic district with residential character, small, simple signs constructed of traditional materials and affixed flush to the body of the building near the front door are considered appropriate. For historic institutional uses within predominantly residential districts, simple signs constructed of traditional sign material should be discreetly located. Small historic plaques and markers are usually mounted near the entrance on the exterior in a wall where no architectural detail is damaged or concealed. As it relates to Conway sign ordinance, in almost every case, signage within the historic district will adhere to the guidelines and regulations detailed within Ordinance 06-134, which is the Conway sign code, and all amendments thereto. All historic regulations which may apply in any and all other current laws pertaining to signage. The one exception to the aforementioned guideline is the area measurement for those signs commonly referred to as freestanding signs. A freestanding sign is supported permanently on the ground by poles or braces and not attached to any building. Basically, they can exceed 16 square feet and a maximum height of 4 feet without an exception granted by the Historic District Commission. The reason I say that is that our baseline standard is what is in the sign code, which provides an allowance for monument signage and provides an allowance for wall signage. Now, I think there are questions about whether this should be illuminated or not, but the sign code does allow for wall signage and it does allow for monument signage.
But if it feels like it goes with the rest of the neighborhood.
There is some level of compatibility to that, but I don't want you to be too subjective in your review as it relates to that, because we have a definable standard that says wall signs are allowed, and it's got guidelines for where you would locate wall signs, and it's got definable standards for monument signs. So.
Yes, sir. But come up here,
Thank you,
name
Mr.
and
Walden.
address.
I'm Jerry Adams. I'm the neighbor, 1822 Robinson. I'm the neighbor of the church just east of it. It's a good church, glad to have it in the community. It has moved into the historic district and is learning how to play by the rules of the historic district. So I think this is somewhat educational. Personally, I don't think that sign complies. We've been there for 20 years. We invested a lot in building in recovering a house. It's a 1904 house. It was in horrible repair when we got there, and we comply. We also help get the historic district, but I think that the church is trying to advertise it as a church, and the size of that sign, to me, is what the plating shows, not what the text shows. So I agree with the young lady there about it doesn't work. In the historic district, I think you can instinctively look at a sign and say, I'm in the historic district. I think if you look at that sign, I don't think you could come to that understanding. And so I would want to be a good neighbor. They've been a good neighbor, although they did trim a number of our trees without asking. I think that may have been an error on some zealot in terms of workday, and we reconcile that. I think they're good neighbors, I think it's a good organization. However, I don't think they're complying with the essence of what the historic district signage requirements of being as a neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got questions, any comments?
I guess, can we see page 6 on, I want one particular photo of the church, okay, the, which one, okay, the center, or the very top center. Okay, that is without nothing, that's without a sign. To me, that is aesthetically pleasing and acceptable to a historic district. The other, with the signage up there, to be honest, it looked gaudy. It was not, it was not attractive or pleasingly. It actually would put me off if I drove by there. This, I don't understand why you can't have something just plain and simple there in the center and then put signs on the side. And that's how I feel about it. It doesn't, otherwise it does not, it sticks out and it does not conform to the historic neighborhood, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm ready to make a motion, but I don't know if anybody has anything else to say.
I mean, I think I want to just chime in and state that I think the key word that we're looking at, based on what James said, is discreet, right? That's what it all is going to come back to. It's not that the signage proposed outside of the wood platting does not follow the guidelines. It's thinking about in terms of discreetness of the signage. I don't think there's anything wrong with having signage on the wall. I think it's the location of the signage of the wall that we're all struggling with. Is that correct? I just want to lay that.
I think it's the addition of the cladding, because
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Well,
Right.
we're not doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And I think they've gotten into compliance within the scale of their actual graphic, and now I think we're settling on location.
Whether it's wall or monument.
I mean,
That's kinda where
they
I
are
was
allowed,
going.
though, on the guidelines to have one monument sign and wall signage. They're allowed to have that. We just have to decide what we determine as discreteness of the wall signage.
So
And we
my,
don't agree that discrete is at the top of the roof line where it's
Correct.
been proposed.
so my motion is to allow for a unlit wall sign in the center. I don't know how I want to put this, but in the center, not the easements. Right here, just so we're all clear.
Where the original sign was located?
Now, that, by the nature of the structure's lighting, it would be lit.
'Cause
Okay.
they've got eve lighting there.
That's, okay.
And that was part of the,
It's part of the issue before.
That
Part
was
of
part
the
of the
issue.
issue last month,
Is it
is
lit-
that it was
it-
lit too much. And so they added the wood behind it because we talked about it being lit on that white wall, really makes it reflective as well. But I agree with the location, I think. I think that helps with the human scale of the neighborhood, and if the scale of the sign is within compliance, and then maybe if,
There's no additional lighting, though. That lighting was already part of the church, correct?
right, and we talked a little bit last week about, or good grief, last month, if that lighting could be controlled separately or dimmed or something like this, and that's not something that was feasible with the infrastructure that was in place. But I agree with the location would be
Okay.
appropriate to the scale.
So to continue my motion, I was going to, in that location, a wall sign with,
It's basically that size.
with no additional lighting that's not already existing. And then a monument side. Meaning they can't backlight it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I was taken from Mr. Walden. I mean, it's either the wall sign or a monument sign. We're not going to, their other sign, they're going to be moving to where it's appropriate. It's already there. My talking was about maybe replacing the wall sign with a monument sign.
But we allow one of each.
I know, but I mean, they were talking about cost. They were trying, this was going to be cheaper than a monument sign, so I didn't think they would be done together.
No, I guess I was making the motion so that if they wanted them both, they didn't have to come back here,
apologies.
you
My
know?
apologies, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
These two are the type that are approved, and if they go down the line, they want another one next year, they can put one up.
Okay.
Or come back in 2 years.
Emily, just to be clear, because I wrote that down, I don't want to get wrong.
Good luck.
The lighting will remain the same. Or
My-
no lighting.
My motion was that a new sign will not add additional lighting.
So the lighting will remain as is. Okay, that's.
Yes, sir?
Is there any chance for another comment about, since you've changed locations, the lighting that's there now is extremely bright. So now we're gonna have a lit sign, lighted sign. If the location is changed to a wall sign
Look.
in the area
So let's get a motion in a second, and then we have discussion at that point, and we can entertain that. I'm sorry, it's just, it's.
Yeah, they may not even second.
Yeah,
They may not
it's,
agree.
yeah, we don't have a motion until it's seconded, so.
I am gonna second, based on the guidelines as written, it's appropriate.
So the discussion, am I, to kind of understand your question, am I right that that wall is lit, it's a white wall lit at night right now? Okay. And before the sign went up, it was a white wall lit at night? Was that it?
Before
Before
they bought the property, it was already
well,
lit,
when they
correct?
painted it, it went from whatever color it was to this color, but
But the
it
light
was lit. Okay, so, and I'm just, if a sign is added to it, the graphic that's up in that gable that we see, if that's put there, it's not adding light to it. It's light that's already there. Yes, it's a sign that's lit, but it's only moderately changed from a white wall that's lit. Is that, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, sorry.
And that's specifically why I worded the motion the way I did, so that they couldn't right now, when you're driving down the street, it's a white wall at night that's lit. Nothing's gonna change if they put a sign up. There's not gonna be additional lighting. There's not gonna be wood cladding.
Well, when they did put a sign up before they got to apply for a permit, they did put a sign up in that spot. And, with quite large letters, and it was shining, those two lights, there's two floodlights in that low part there. And it was quite bright. So it would be, that's more intrusive from
well,
our experience
well,
than
befo-
it was back there.
But before they put the sign up, the lights were the same, correct? It was just a bright wall.
It's a bright wall, right. So when they put the dark colored letters up, City Church, with their symbol, it's lit all the time, or whatever their timer's set.
Yeah, they're gonna have to,
It's on 24 hours. It's on 24.
they will not be allowed to be on 24 hours, based
That's-
on the current recommendations according to the sign ordinance, they have to turn it off at 8 PM, which might be later than everybody likes, but they will have to turn it off at 8 PM.
And that's really just gonna be for 6 months of the year, because otherwise it's dark, or daylight till 9
Yeah.
o'clock in the summertime. So that's a halvesies there on the time, a couple hours beyond, dinner time, whatever, but, I guess I can't get past the thought that it was lit before, and it wasn't, I mean, it was lit, but it wasn't as much of a problem as it was when it was lit again with a sign put there. The sign was out of compliance, it was too big, and that's fine. What they're proposing is in compliance, it's the right size, which is much smaller than what was there, so my argument about a wall sign was pretty much the one we were given tonight, that's up high in the air like a tall sign on a pole could be. But this down low under that eave is getting towards a monument sign. It's getting down, a little bit. It's not as banner-like, as you were saying earlier. But I guess the whole thing with the wall being lit before and adding a graphic on there, it's not adding more light to it. So it's.
And we can't deny them of a wall-mounted sign.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in compliance.
Yeah, and it's the right size, but,
To provide y'all, the applicant had stated the size of the 16 square foot size sign in the middle was likely, it felt small within that space. I might recommend that this be considered, that the 16 square foot proposal be moved to the right, on that side of the gable where essentially where that pampas grass is, in that space, and that would be somewhat more discreet and fill that space, but obviously you'd probably want to, that's a possibility.
Can we ask the owner to reconsider their location and their signage placement along Robinson Street in relation to the conversations that we've had tonight and the conversations with no cladding and being in compliance with
Well,
location.
if there's
and
gonna
the
be a
material
motion
and
made,
size.
it'd be nice to know that, I mean, to have-
Is that what you're asking me to do?
yeah,
Okay.
we have a motion and a
I don't know what
second,
the
we're
rules are.
fine, we're discussing things right now. We can, this is information, I mean, this is discussion part.
James,
so-
can I ask for a clarification why you think that would be a more discreet location? What would,
Oh, the
change.
reason being, that's a location you see sometimes on churches off towards where one of the pull-in entrances is, it wouldn't be as tall.
okay,
Is it
just because of
Just-
where it is in location
And
to
it-
that
it-
entrance?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know that there's downlighting in that particular location either.
I felt that maybe proportionally it would look strange if it
I
was on
agree.
that side.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only reason, that's what I was asking. Whereas on the opposite side, I'm assuming that's another primary entrance, and it felt more proportional.
There's- yeah,
But
there's-
that's
there's-
from
well,
my
there's no- there's
non-planning
no
brain.
entrance- There's no entrance till you get around the corner. and
Yeah,
raise it back,
yes,
so-
it just looks like more proportional.
Is that
Yeah.
not a door?
No. Not on the front.
The far right, it's behind a wall.
Oh, well, it's around, that's why moving, like you say, moving the sign to the right of that would be a little, yeah, that, I'm sorry, yeah,
Well, and the lower height would make it more human scale.
yeah.
So, can I make a motion to table it and let the owner have another chance to do it? Or-
I-
I don't know what the rules are now that we
Yeah,
have a
well,
motion in a second.
I would, we need to vote on what's been put before us, but I would say that, shall we say, I would be leery of tabling it again,
I
asking
mean,
again,
Liz,
just-
I think that the thing that we could possibly do, which I would suggest, is just say if we want to approve both those locations and allow them to choose between those locations, that's something I think we could possibly do. I don't know if we want to do that, but that would be a way to add that in. Yes.
Yeah, we can still do that, it's just, we're getting close to not. But,
I actually need to amend the motion anyway, because we need to remove number 4 off of, off of the recommendations.
No, that would still exist.
Yeah, if
That
they
needs
have,
to-
if they
that-
have a
that
monument
needs to
sign,
stay
they would
there and
still
say
need
that
to
can't
have
happen.
landscaping.
That's the wood cladding.
I'm sorry, I was talking about the wood cladding.
You said no wood cladding in your motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Don't worry, I got it, Emily.
Oh,
You
I
did say
see.
that.
Yeah, never mind.
okay,
Would you be willing to have an amendment to that stipulates 16 square feet? That's the size that they
Well, yeah,
proposed, but.
yeah. And that's guidelines too, I mean, do we need to put that in a motion?
Well, just to make sure it's clear.
I put it in the motion already.
Okay.
I don't know if you said that, but
Can you read the
it was
motion back?
assumed, yes. Well, recommendations I discussed would change, the Mitchell Street sign shall be removed, and the remaining ground-mounted sign be moved to the right-of-way clearway zone, that stayed the same. No signage shall be illuminated after 8 PM, that was updated. Landscaping shall be required around the base of the ground, any ground-mounted sign. No untreated wood cladding shall be added, and the existing cladding may be printed to minimize
Paint. Painted,
sorry, yes. That was, I wrote that wrong.
that's all right.
To minimize reflectivity of light from the wall sign. Application for sign permit shall be made prior to the issuance of the certificate of appropriateness. And then I added another recommendation of the location of the wall signage, 16 square feet, will be adjusted to the center wall to the, I said left, but that depends on which way you're looking at it.
Say east.
Yeah, okay, east is better, thank you, Steve. Thank you. Lighting will remain as is, no new lighting shall be installed. And that was what I had.
Okay,
It's a great motion.
it's a great
It's a
motion.
very well-written
Mr.
motion.
Walden, Mr. Walden, can you come up here again? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I just want, as the applicant, I want you to make sure we're clear
Yes,
on
sir.
this, because, again, when we take into account everybody's opinions,
Sure.
it's put into you.
Okay.
Are you clear on what we just did?
I'm not. No,
Okay.
I'm not clear on what y'all are saying.
That's why I called you back up here, so,
Yeah.
because it
Please fill me in.
got kind of spaghetti.
did. Yes, sir.
Spaghetti noodly.
I was gonna say, use the mouse and.
What?
Can you put the mouse where it's supposed to be?
So basically, the graphic you have, that's
Yes.
16 square feet.
Yes, sir.
That's good. That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Let's
what, now, easy,
No,
Hold on.
easy, don't get excited.
Okay.
Yeah, just wait till and,
I gotta celebrate the small.
oh, that's good. Well, so,
Okay.
inside, just go
Okay,
tingly.
I'll put it inside.
The people, as I understand it, again, I'm trying to keep up too, we're wanting it moved from in the gable there to the right, as you look at the picture, to the
Okay,
east, on
to
that
the east.
wall.
Got
It's
it.
more of it's against down further.
Okay.
You know, again, it's in that middle ground between that and the monument sign. It's still,
Okay.
it's in that lower, and the human
Great.
scale, and I think it's a valid point, you know, that's what we want in this,
Sure.
in the neighborhood. And, you know, it's a one-story building, it's getting there, but again, we went to the highest point of that, you know, to do this. So we're coming down a little bit. I mean, for me, it's kind of a period to that whole thing that you drive through. It's, you know,
Sure.
graphically, I think it makes sense. But that's basically what we're talking about, right? The rest of it that she read,
Yeah, just no cladding behind it, just simple logo
Yes,
within
ma'am.
the 16 square feet.
Yes, ma'am.
And then just making sure that those lights are turned off before 8.
Yeah, that gable has no security downlight, so we're in luck. Thumbs up.
Okay. Again, I think with the lighting that's around, the street light, everything, and that white wall and that black graphic, in evening time, it's gonna, you know, when you're gonna see it. I mean, you know, as far as no lights being added, that kind of thing, I think it's,
Okay.
but again, like we're saying, if you can't have lights past 8 o'clock or whatever, that only matters in the 6 months of wintertime. You know, I mean, otherwise, it's daylight till 9 o'clock, you know,
Sure.
so that really gets to be you know, it's just 6 months of the year we worry about that, but with no lights there, that's even better, but at night, that street light is, according to him, you know, pretty powerful, you know, so we're good with that. Does that make sense? I'm not,
Yes, sir, it
I'm
makes
not
sense.
asking your approval for our approval.
It
I'm
makes
just-
sense.
If you're clear on it,
Move the sign to the east and lower it down.
right?
Yes, makes
And
sense.
that 16 square foot sign you've got will be a nice little punch right there. I mean,
And you'll still be allowed to have that ground mounted sign that you're,
that you're having to shift out of Clearview. That's just make it comply how it needs to comply. You know, that hadn't been an issue other than moving it out of Clearview, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is everybody clear on that? Mr. Kitts, y'all neighborhood?
Just one question, does that also
Just-
mean that the atrium sign is also still coming down?
Coming down, yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought that was just understood, yeah. So, okay, and are we good? I just, you know, we all, I thought that was part of what they, was
You
that
can
not part of
include
what
it.
they said in here?
We're pulling it down. I mean,
Okay,
you can include it.
I mean, we can make that a addendum, but they're only allowed one wall signs.
Yeah,
I
I thought I saw it in the reading, did I not do that? That they were taking that down?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
That's the
it's
applicant's.
yeah, you put it, that was an understood thing, so I'm
Okay.
fine with that. So,
Great.
okay, good. So if you're good, we got a motion, a second, and a whole lot of discussion, and, everybody ready for a vote? Yeah, go ahead, I'm fine with it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, got one opposed and what we, 4. I don't vote unless there's a tie, so it wasn't a tie. So 4-1 in favor. Okay, we're gonna have a slightly smaller wall sign to the right, no lights, and next one. Thank you, everybody, for coming for that. I know we had. All right, next on our agenda is the 835 Faulkner Street. It's a proposal for demolition. Have somebody to speak for that. God, number 3 on the list always sits your sweats through the whole thing. But that's a shame. Shh. Oh, hi there, sorry.
Hello, I'm
Hi there.
Tricia O'Connor. I live at 1525 Summerbrook. This is my husband Rob. He also lives at 1525 Summerbrook, and I'm the applicant here representing the kitchen store for Jean Smyers. She's my mother. Rob is here to answer additional questions because he's the one that worked with the demolition company as well as the asbestos company that we've talked to. We are asking for permission for demolition for 835 Faulkner due to the fire that occurred in November. The interior of the structure is about, I would say, at least a third completely demolished, and the rest of it has significant damage to the interior as well. The exterior from the front doesn't look too much different than it did before the fire, but if you go around to the back side of the building, you can see the tremendous damage to the back end of the building. The insurance company has considered it a total loss. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the fire. I do have pictures of the interior. I know they weren't included in the report. But I know that you're, looking at the exterior of the building to know what the significant damage on the inside would have to
James
see
had
that.
sent them to me, and it's,
I watched it live, like it was awful. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
it's pretty
tragic.
bad.
And it was funny because the wind was blowing this way, and I told my husband, I'm like, we need to walk up this way so that we're not breathing that asbestos in. I mean, because you just know that it's in that house,
well,
so.
there is asbestos, correct?
There
Uh-huh,
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I asked him to walk upwind. My question, James, just out of curiosity, why is this not a contributing structure?
It's been messed up.
Oh.
It's changed from,
It has?
oh, yeah, I mean, not messed up, but I mean, it's not like it was originally. Sorry.
Interesting. That was just my own curiosity. It had nothing to do with this. I just,
No, contributing structures usually are not, it's not 100% unchanged, but pretty close to what they were. And-
Interesting.
And you can talk to people at the state, it could be just a simple thing of adding vinyl siding. But usually it's doing that, taking all the window trim away, adding something on that's not, but yeah, wasn't a contributing structure to begin with. But anybody else speak in favor of the proposal? I'm sorry, if you were done, I'm cutting you off. And it's not required. Anybody speak in opposition to the proposal?
I won't speak in opposition.
Okay, yeah, well,
I'll just affirm that the asbestos inspection did obviously turn up asbestos, and they were not, due to the unsafe condition, they said that they could not do localized abatement, that they would have to do what they call wet demolition.
yeah. Well, in the world, okay, nobody speaking in opposition, you were just commenting, but, so back to us, a couple things that we deal with, and this is something, if we've not dealt with a demolition before, it's nice to know. Well, first off, asbestos is a budget killer, I mean, money-wise, and this needs to go down because of asbestos, and that's something we can't fight. But two, if a structure needs the amount of money to put into it that almost puts it over any kind of appraised value it could ever get to, that's an economic hardship on the property. And it's not the owner's economic hardship, it's the property's hardship. I mean, if the owner can't afford to do it, that's near there. But the property itself, the damage that's been done and the fact that asbestos is in there and is really a building killer, it's almost, let's put it out of its misery. And I don't want to jump on taking buildings down. That's not what we're about, and we shouldn't be. But there are circumstances that you just can't, it's almost like, why aren't we here? We don't need to talk about it, but we do need to, to process that. And so we've had a couple come up before that there's like a house that might be worth $80,000 on the market. It's going to cost $120 just to fix it up. It's just things like that. And that's a small difference compared to what this would be. So my pitch to as far as how that works. But anybody else have any questions or?
I mean, I agree with the
Who's got the bullet
recommendations.
and the gun? It's time to do. I mean, the house. It's unfortunate. I mean, a house to go in is never nice, but it's just that some things happen. So I'll be quiet now.
Can I move that we grant the demolition permit?
Okay.
That's second.
I got to be quicker on the finger there. Okay, motion and second for demolition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. And again, unfortunate, but it's you can't get around it either. So, thank y'all for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It breaks my heart.
I know, it does. It does. All right, the last one on our list, and it's a long wait, and we apologize for that, but this way it happens here. We have basically on the 500 block of Oak Street, a new come and go, I guess gas station is what you still call them. That's what I grew up calling everything, but it does more than that. But if we have somebody speak for that project.
Good evening. My name is Mike Klopfelter. I'm with Ozark Civil Engineering, 3214 Northwest Avion Way, Bentonville, Arkansas, 72712. Ozark Civil Engineering is representing our client, Come and Go. We are proposing a new store located at the northwest corner of Oak and Ingram. The store will consist of approximately 5,620 square feet, have approximately 23 parking stalls, 6 fuel dispensers, and we are proposing a full access off of Ingram and also off of Lincoln. And if you have any questions pertaining to the site, I'd be happy to answer those. We do have a Come and Go representative. She can answer any questions that you have pertaining to the building.
Anybody have any, well, anybody else here speak in favor of the proposal? Then we can get into, anybody in opposition to the proposal? Okay. First off, before any questions, as I understand it, the staff proposed tabling it in order to kind of meet and get together and talk about the way that it adhered or did not adhere to guidelines.
Yes, sir.
And that was, y'all decided not to come on and do this here. And the reviewing this, it is really honestly so far away from guideline rules that we can't, we're not here to design the project, which is what it looks like it needs to have done on pretty much everything, from facade articulation, ground level facade detail, building materials, building entries. I mean, it's just, and I could read every one of those. If y'all have the agenda, you can see that. But I mean, from the building materials not meeting our guidelines to having what faces Oak Street, which is our main street, just a metal man door and windows that aren't windows on that side, as I understood it, that weren't transparent. It kind of goes against almost everything we try to put forth. And the recommendation from the staff is to decline it. But I guess, to me, the best thing to do is to try to just table it and let's, get with the staff and get to that middle ground that we can do. Because all we can do is rule on what we got when we can't. There's been times somebody comes up and there's a little tweaking that needs to be done. We can take care of some little things or give them the ability to approve it if it's done this way. But this really would require a redesign. And I'm not trying to bust your chops, but it's just, we can't rule on something that is, we can rule on, we can turn it down, but, I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but that's about, I don't know what else to do. They suggested tabling it to try to figure out the issues and get it worked out, because, I'm an architect, so is Liz, but I looked at it, and it's things could be turned and moved, but it's gonna, you guys have your requirements of how things work and in and out, but I'll stop talking, but it's just, we're so far out of compliance, there's nothing that we can tweak here tonight like we've done, do for some things every once in a while. So I guess my thing back to you is, do you want us to rule on it, or do you want to table it and try to come back with something that we can fix? Because, there's no building permit unless we approve it. I'm not trying to hit you with that either, but it's just the facts of it. And if we're on I know, there's time issues sometimes, things like that, but this is, I honestly can't say I've seen one this far away from what guideline, the guidelines aren't crazy restrictive. It's just, these weren't, glass percentage on a side should be 66%. One is 9%, one's 10%. I think one was 20%, as I recall. Things like that. And that's not just almost there. So with that said, I'm out of breath, I guess, but it's really back to you guys. Do you want to table it, or do you want us to rule on it?
We definitely will work with the city. Come and Go.
And we do too. And I didn't mean that.
Come and Go is willing to do whatever it takes.
That was my next question. Does Come and Go outside of their normal design? Or are they just stuck in their ways? Because I know there's different
No, ma'am.
cities
No.
that have different, shopping centers have certain designs.
They do have other options that are available, and that's what we would hope to discuss with you today.
Right.
We made our submittal, I believe it was on January 7th. We didn't get comments back or anything as sort of a response until last week. And we had hoped that we could keep in line, we have to get your approval before we can come before planning with our site plan.
Right.
So we just want it to be an open discussion, let you know that Come and Go is willing to do whatever
Yeah.
it takes.
Well, and
So to
that-
answer your question, to be short, I think we'd prefer to be tabled.
Okay. Well, well, but it wasn't submitted, and it's not part of this, so we're in the design phase of it. And I'm not, trying to be negative, it's just, it takes it out of the normal process of what we do. I can't speak to the timing of things, but the review takes what it takes, and it gets done, and here we are. But to have this presented to us, and then, but here's some options, that said, it gets us into the design, like really redesign of something that it needs to be brought to us like that as our submittal, which tabling it would let you do that. And I would strongly suggest getting together with the city as soon as possible too, just to get, we just can't do that right now, I guess, I'm sorry. And I'm not, again, it's not like we're, come up here and we bare our teeth and go after your throat. That's not the intent. It's just that this was like, wow, we haven't had this, much to deal with in a while. And I love Come and Go. I mean, there's nothing, I'm making my business, so it's let's just get this right, and get it done. And we need to table it would be the softest, easiest thing, because it doesn't
Hurt
What
anything.
if we decline it, what's
They can resubmit an
Yeah.
application.
the same, like, okay.
Do you have our guidelines? Do you have a copy of them?
Yes, ma'am, and those have been passed on to the architect as well that submitted.
Did they have them in before this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I just strongly recommend tabling it.
Wait, if they had them before this, why did they ignore them?
I can't answer on behalf of the architect.
Okay. Is the architect willing to make the changes?
Absolutely.
Okay, because obviously when they got a copy, they didn't, so I'm curious.
Back to the central question, if tabling is an option, that we would be happy. And that to me would be the best thing. I mean, I want y'all to work it out, and it's, again, the working out part gets done before it comes to us. That's normal. And
I understand.
okay, and again, we've been here a long time for one that was, back and forth over what we talked, the lighting and stuff, but this would be this is just not what we do, typically, so.
Is there a benefit to the owner to table it versus we vote it down and then they have to go back and resubmit? Is there like a leniency on when they can turn
If you
things in?
table it, then notice doesn't have to be redone.
Yeah, it's starting over if we turn them down, they start over with all the notifications, all that stuff goes,
We'd prefer tabling.
See, again, I'm fine with that. I need a motion and a second on that. We need
I'll
to-
motion to table the discussion,
Knew
and
that
Liz will
quick.
second.
I will second. Whatever.
Okay, and again, the discussion, we appreciate you coming and all
Absolutely.
that, but we just need to get what we need to judge on, rule on, it has to be worked out, through them or whatever, but, I have a motion and a second on tabling the item, and you don't have to be back next month if it doesn't work out, it's not required, but it lets you come, you still need to let you know by the normal deadline? Okay, so the normal deadline for February, let them know that you're gonna be on February's agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's, I think as much, then talk to them about it. So, motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you much.
Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question off the record?
Let's end the meeting first.
No, I don't mean off the record, it doesn't,
I was about to
it
say.
doesn't have to do with the motion, but what is your timeline for this? I mean, I know this is putting you back another month, so.
It is. I had planned on submitting for the February 18th for Planning Commission site plan approval, and I was told that we had to get this in line before we can move on to the next. So it's putting me back now, it'll be about 2 months.
But when do you plan on assuming it all gets down the line and approved, when do you plan on demolishing all those buildings?
It'll be after we get approval through planning and
So
engineering.
so you'll start immediately this year?
Yeah, so we had hoped that, work things out here, then I could continue on with my submittal February 18th, but I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Just so you understand, you do not go to planning commission.
Yeah, but I was told that I have, for my site plan review, I have to have Historic District Commission approval.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
building-
You're
for
talking
building
about
permit.
Yeah.
the planning commission meeting, that you won't go to a planning commission. meeting.
Yeah, just planning and engineering approval.
Yeah.
And building permit.
Yes, sir.
Which is after all of that's done. So, yeah, we're the first step in all
Yep.
that, so, okay, all right.
Absolutely.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming. Do we have any other business, do we?
An item of business. We said, let's think back.
I knew this was coming.
Think back
I knew this
to
was
when we had
coming.
our discussion about the minutes. I have graciously done the minutes 2 months in a row, but let's think about our rotating schedule that we talked about. Because, and I will go back, and I apologize for being late. I ran to the store and was a lot longer than I thought I would, and it's impossible to do it without my laptop, so I just had to go home and get it. So I would recommend whoever does the minutes next to bring a laptop. But I'll go back and look at the recording for,
Oh, the part.
yeah, the part that I missed. Yeah, I think all I missed was some resident commentary on the first item. But if anybody wants to, if we want to talk about, do we want to go ahead and plan out for the whole year?
I'm fine. I'm fine, for y'all to plan out the whole year.
Or, I mean, I'll do it again. I think we should just rotate.
Let's look, Shelby has done a great job.
Amazing job.
And let's.
I'll share with you my Google Doc, Liz, that you can edit.
Before we burn her out.
That's illegal, and we're not allowed to talk about that part.
No, before.
We're
we burn
live
her
streaming.
out.
I'll take March. You said February, I'll
Okay,
take March.
you go.
Liz,
Wait,
February,
Yum.
Jane, March.
I'll take May.
Okay, and then I'll just rotate from there. Is that okay with everybody? Just rotate every
Okay.
other month, okay?
I'll be out of I won't be at the next meeting.
Well, then you can take April.
I was gonna say, if we've, depended on Shelby, she's done a great job, and we're giving her some relief. What if you were every other month and everybody filled in those months? That stretches it out.
Yeah, I'm even
And
fine
if
with
you're
that.
still fine
Yeah,
to
I'm
do
fine
it,
with that.
We could do that instead of like 3 in a row, then she does it later. I'm not saying
I'm
that
okay with
would
that.
work, but it spreads out.
I still get to put on my resume that I'm secretary at that point, so I guess
right,
that's the
right,
benefit.
That's fine. Does that work? And we can work it out each month if we want to, but.
Yeah, that's fine, if everybody's okay with that. And then we
We
can
already
always
gave
just
Donna
fill
Marie.
in.
Don't
What'd you
forget
say?
Donna
Yeah, Marie's is.
Marie, when are you gonna be out? I'll
No,
just make a
That's
note.
Margaret.
Margaret.
Margaret, I'm
Marie.
sorry.
Marie's
Where
not
is
here.
Marie?
We
Yeah.
were saying Marie,
I'm
but
sorry.
she's gone.
Marie's not here, so she needs to have at least 4 months.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
in a row.
In a row.
But,
Yeah.
No, that.
Without a
well,
laptop.
again, I
Margaret,
think-
did you say,
I
though,
think we
that-
got a system- we
I make
gotta
a
work.
motion.
Okay, did somebody take the April meeting? Because I just realized we're gonna have company the May meeting, and
You are the April meeting, aren't you?
Yeah, you can just have whatever you want.
can I have April?
Yeah.
And we can wing it each month too.
Okay.
something.
Yeah, we can always,
I'll do April.
yes,
Yeah.
Alright.
yes.
Yeah,
I'll
so
go ahead
that-
and like put a tentative, just
Yeah,
in the
but
minute.
in
Okay.
each time, we need
Yeah.
to, whoever's next needs to know so they can remember to bring a laptop or whatever,
Yes.
chalkboard.
But I
and
think
chalk,
like Liz
whatever it
said,
is.
let's just, if Liz can expect it February,
That's fine.
I'll do March, and then
That's
we'll
fine.
just go on.
Yeah, since she's secretary.
I'll remember,
Okay.
don't worry.
All right. Is that, I'm not meaning to cut this off.
Yeah, I'll
but-
motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Get out of here. All right.
I'm just hoping that